Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What are you kidding? We got us a family here.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the In Modcast podcast. With me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Hey, folks.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, the one and only wife Dork.
So, like, the dead person is like the ghost, right? And then it's the robot is the shell. I get it now.
And also joining us is Brad Gullickson, mouth Dork.
I am Brad, and I give my consent.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. And welcome to the It Modcast podcast reviewcast for Ghost in the Shell.
Yay!
2017, the live action one, not the anime.
Yes.
So, this past week was the release of the live action adaptation of Masamune Shirow and Mamoru Oshii's Ghost in the Shell, starring Scarlett Johanson. And who else is in it besides Beat Takashi?
Juliette Binoche?
Yeah.
Michael Pitt is Koozie.
Yeah, as soon as I saw him, I thought of The Crow. Yep.
And then my favorite guy, Bato, is played by...
Say it.
Plo Asbayek.
Pilu Asbeck.
Oh, excuse us.
Hello.
What is it?
I guess,
No, say it, Brian.
Pilu Asbeck.
Now say that, Brad.
Pilo.
He's adding vowels. I don't know why. He's literate, I promise.
All right. So, with Ghost in the Shell, most recently we just had a fistful of whitewashing. So, if you have been under a rock, there was a big controversy leading up to and even after the release of this film regarding the casting of the lead character, who is played by Scarlett Johansson. IMDb credit just lists her as Major. She has several names, though. We're going to get into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen the film and you wish to check it out, do so, and then come back and check out the rest of this episode. If you don't care about the film or you don't want to go see it, then continue listening as we spoil it for you. Anyway, in the manga and also in the anime, the character of Major, her full name is, let me get this right.
I can pull up the IMDb.
Monoko Kusunagi. And both the manga and the anime characters share the same name. But in the live-action adaptation of Ghost in the Shell, she just goes by Major for the most part. But her I guess not her real name, but what do you call it? Her non-rank name is something Killian, right? Karen?
Something like that. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, but you're right.
She has a name not associated with her rank.
It's like Mary or Mara Killian or something.
I think it's like Mira.
Mira, yeah, we'll just go with Mira.
I did not take notes. I feel like I'm flying naked.
Blind. Well, welcome to. That's how we always feel because we never take notes.
Yeah, but you guys remember stuff. I'm terrible at remembering things.
Well, I can't remember her name, so I hope you feel a little bit better.
It's Killian.
Killian. Yay, got it right.
But doesn't she go by Mira some of the time?
No.
Never? I just made that up.
So they call her Major. She identifies herself with Major.
It's actually named Mira Killian.
Everybody can suck it. Everybody can suck it.
All right. So with the live action adaptation of the film, this character is she is a complete cyborg body, but her human brain is transplanted into this shell. So her
and if you don't
consciousness-
get that in the first 10 minutes of the movie, don't worry, because they're going to explain it to you for the rest of the fucking movie. So don't even worry about it.
Yes.
That brain's her ghost.
That's her ghost, right?
That body's her
the
shell.
The body is the shell. I think like when they did the little like black screen where they're like in this time and all of these technological things, and they tell the backstory of this world. I was just like, ooh, what a cool metaphor. The ghost in the shell. That makes so much sense. I put it together in like 5 seconds, and then the movie starts, and they actually just refer to it as Ghost in the Shell. It's not a cool, mysterious metaphor.
No. And that's one of the issues with the film is that they don't trust the audience enough to be able to pick up on certain things, themes, and ideals in the film. But I digress. So she is someone who has their brain and consciousness and their ghost put inside of a robotic shell. The year is so far in the future where now cybernetic enhancements and full cyborgs and AI are synonymous with everyday life. And she is the first successful experiment of this procedure from the Hanaka Corporation, and their intent is to use her as a weapon. So she is to be the next evolution of soldier / weapon for military or tactical purposes.
Yeah, but they're using the human brain more as like a computer, and they don't want all of those pesky memories and I feel like feelings getting in the way. So it's more about having a machine that makes human decisions without the burden of a past.
Yes.
And yeah.
And so to sedate those memories and that past, she routinely takes a dosage of
goo, yellow goo.
Yeah, and so the film basically, in a nutshell, you see what I did there? Is about her coming into her own and figuring out her existence within her reality. And
I would watch a movie that's like The Ghost in the Nutshell, and instead of replacing the brain, you replace the testicles.
Wait,
where you transplant the testicles of a deceased man, and then you see what kind of decisions he makes. Terrible ones, I guess.
What? I don't want to watch that. And so that's basically the film, and they deviate from the anime and both the manga, because the anime is a condensed version of several volumes of manga, and so even the anime deviates from Masamune Shiro's original his original story, and so it's compacted and it's infused with Mamoru Oshii's really heavy philosophical themes, as far as looking at where's the line drawn when you go from human to machine, and is there such thing as, if you don't have a body and your brain is transported, is there such thing as a ghost, and spirituality and things like that. And the second Ghost in the Shell gets even more deeper into those philosophical themes and debates. But this film
barely touches on the surface of those things. I found that actually very frustrating, because I find like where is the line between human and robot to be like this very interesting thing, and if you continue removing and replacing pieces of man, when does he cease to be man, and blah 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 blah. And they explored that a little bit, but never as far.
But don't you think that the biggest problem with putting out a Ghost in the Shell today in 2017 is that those themes have been explored over and over again in science fiction already?
But I think there was an element that I feel like was even a touch beyond, well, when is a robot conscious? Because it has this human brain, and how she talked about, later revealed in the storyline that there were like something like almost 200 failed attempts at the transplant of that brain into the robot, where Mira referred to it as you killed all of these innocent people trying to create me. You killed all of these innocent people in this in this process, but at the same time, they would have died anyway. They were like body dead, brain alive.
But were they? That's what I was confused on, because as the film progresses towards its answers, it really skips over a lot of the details of the horror that the Hanaka Corporation is committing. So I wasn't exactly sure where these people came from, how many people. They do give a number at one point.
Yeah, I think it was something like 198.
Right.
Well,
yeah, it's a
spoiler. And then the story about her past was a lie anyway. Like where her body had come from in the first place was like
the one that she had
in
as
her brain.
major. But when we get to the end and we see the glitches form into an actual memory, she's just being pulled out of the lawless sector by Hanaka soldiers.
Somebody fell asleep
scientists.
towards the end of the movie, and that was me.
And so I think that speaks to where they got the other 197 people from. So
was it all from that one raid? Is my question.
I don't think that it was from that one raid, but I think that one raid was indicative of how they were getting. They weren't. It wasn't like Alex Murphy, like, we got a tragic car accident victim.
No, they were snatching homeless people.
Before he's brain dead. Let's take his brain.
I did fall asleep for the last 15 minutes of the movie because I found this movie to be very soothing. So I did get lulled to sleep by it. So I missed that part. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So in a way, it wasn't volunteers. It wasn't people who were already dying or on the brink of death. They were snatching
just
people
on the street. Well, that's terrible. I don't approve of that at all.
Yeah.
But so that reveal I find interesting, but it happens so quickly. The film really rushes its ending.
Yeah.
And so much of the rest of the film, because it is dealing with concepts that we've explored so many different times in a variety of different mediums and stories, what this film has to rely on and succeeds for the most part is its visuals.
Yes. Yes. Well, before we get to the visuals, I do want to say this. The last, I think it was our fistful of whitewashing when at the end of that episode, Brad, you asked me about, my thoughts on viewing the Ghost in the Shell live action film, and I said that, that's why I controversially said that I wasn't a fan of Scarlett Johansson, and I was just going
when you're just lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself, Darren.
And that I was
right,
just
Brian.
Very correct.
And that I was just going into the film for the visuals. Well, surprisingly, my biggest takeaway from the film before we get into the visuals is that, excuse me, what you said is true as far as we have seen this concept and these themes before in film, and a lot of those representations are because of and are inspired by the original anime. But even with the original anime, and I said this in that last episode, where I was never really able to connect to it on a character level beyond the visuals. But for the first time, because of Scarlett Johansson, I was able to, excuse me, I was able to get I was able to feel that theme. She was able to translate that for me, and it was palpable for me to see that confusion, that crisis of identity with her. I was able to put a face to it, as opposed to, for some reason, that just never translated in the animated version for me. But with her, and her finding out who she truly was and going back in those scenes with her mother, I actually found those engaging, and it made me actually care about or think about the Major in a way that I had not done so reading the manga or watching the anime.
That is so fascinating because as a Scarlett Johansson fan, I did not like her in this movie.
No.
And that scene you talk about between the Major and her mom, I do agree that that's the most emotionally impactful scene in the entire film, but I think it falls on the mother character and that performance.
Well, I'm not talking about her performance. I mean, so in the anime, they don't have a scene like that for the character, as what I'm saying. Like Scarlett Johansson, she doesn't act any different in this film than she does in any other films. Like I just still feel the same about her. But what I'm saying as far as what they do, what they've written for this character, i.e. that particular scene, we don't have that in the anime. So I don't feel a connection, or I don't feel sympathy. They don't even in the anime. It seems like she's at a point where she's accepted what she is. She's accepted her ability to just be this ghost who can hop around freely from different bodies or just be anywhere within the net. So it doesn't translate the same way in the anime as it does in this one. In this one, it's almost like an origin story of her getting at the end of the film when she's on that building. That's where, to me, the Major is in the anime. She's at that point where she understands this is where I want to be, this is what I'm capable of, and this is who I am and what I am. So I got different, I had a different connection with her in this film. Brian, you'd seen the anime as well. How did you take this version as opposed to the animated version?
I enjoyed the film. And, it's hard for me to kind of compare because I'm not like a diehard fan, but I am a fan of just the original 1995 film. But it feels like the film overall, I can't really talk too much as far as what you guys were saying about the philosophical aspects of the film. I do agree with what you guys were saying. But it seems like, as far as the narrative-wise, it seems like it took a lot from different incarnations of Ghost in the Shell. So it took stuff from the original film, from the standalone complex, from the sequel and the manga, and it took like a lot of those different elements and try to really tell a cohesive story. But it felt more like an homage, like Rupert Sanders or the creators really just kind of they were in love with this material and wanted to kind of just pay honor to this world and this character, and that's what the film felt more so like, just almost like a love letter to Ghost in the Shell. That's kind of what it felt like to me. But I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. I thought the performances were really good. They definitely got, as far as the look of a lot of the characters, would be Takashi. Batu, I thought, was his name, Pilu, that we were talking about. I thought he was good because he's one iconic character that, you definitely know his look in the film. And for that actor to kind of be able to portray that, and I liked his chemistry that he had with Scarlett Johansson. And again, just all the questions that it raises. I enjoyed the film. I thought it was really good.
Brad, let's talk about the visual aspect, because as you said, and you're correct, for me, I think the strongest point or selling point of this film is the visual representation of the anime and its themes. So let's talk about how did you respond to the visuals?
Most of the time I thought it was really fabulous to look at.
Right.
I love all the cityscape stuff.
Yeah.
I love the use of commercialism within this universe.
Yeah. Augmented reality, overlaying. Yeah.
I love the exploration of technology and the way people connect to their biometric parts. And I thought that if you, there are times in this movie where if you hit pause, you had a one perfect shot.
Oh man!
And there are lots of them.
Yeah.
And some of it's the technology side. Some of it's just as simple like the way Beat Takashi is framed in his room.
Oh man!
And or it's the way it captures a reflection off of a building. It's a beautiful movie, certainly. What surprised me, however, was when it got to the action sequences, the film felt very small.
Yeah.
The streets felt quiet. The bar, the club felt tiny.
Yeah.
I could feel its budget being stretched in its most intimate moments.
Yeah.
That I found it odd as a exploration. It really, what it did is it made me want to go back and look at Blade Runner or even Star Wars Rogue One, and the opening scene of that film, which is certainly Blade Runner inspired, Ghost in the Shell inspired, where Cassian Andor is going through the alleyways and back alleys, and it's exploding with activity.
Yeah.
Whenever you got two shots in this movie, I did not feel the city.
Right.
And I found that to be just off-putting.
Yeah.
But the wide shots and the framing, I really enjoyed.
Absolutely. That scene that's shown in the trailer when she has her thermoptic camouflage on and she's fighting the guy in the water. That, I mean, you talk. I mean, as a fan, as a fanboy, as a fan of the anime, and a fan of and a hopeful for live action translations of anime properties. We talked about Dragon Ball Z in our previous episode, but as a fan of the anime and a source material, to actually see, not just an Easter egg or a nod, but to actually see a sequence that is shot 99.9% like 1-to-1, compared to the source material, and to see it done like that well, that was extremely impressive. I mean, that was extremely impressive. That's a
really strange sequence, though.
It is.
That's kind of the scene that I'm thinking of. Is you have these two garbage truck drivers who are taken over by Kuzi, and they ram their truck into Juliette Binoche's limousine, knocking her out. And then they have machine guns, and they're going to assassinate her. And Batu and the Major show up, and a gunfight happens. But there's nothing happening on that street, and even to the point where that garbage truck driver flees into that shallow pond situation, and the Major comes in, and she's wearing a reflective suit, and you have that really badass moment where she reveals herself and kicks the shit out of him. Aren't there any bystanders? Like where are the thousands of people that you see in the wide shots? Where are they in the city streets?
Yeah, but I think, to be fair, and this is just seeing it from the other side, I don't think you really see that in the anime version as well.
Well, so that was my question, right? In adapting the anime, and I haven't seen it. Is it like Zack Snyder's Watchmen, where he is going to replicate that graphic novel panel for panel, and he's not going to include any creative flourishes of his own? He is there to mimic that book. Is that what's happening in Ghost in the Shell?
To a large degree, yes. And in discussing it with you, I see how that sometimes can be a detriment to a live action translation, because with Watchmen, that's a perfect example. Like I don't know of any other film outside of maybe Sin City that a director was,
or 300.
Oh yeah, again, but with Zack Snyder. But the director was so keen on taking the panel and putting it up on the big screen. Now with Ghost in the Shell, like Brian said, it's an amalgamation of multiple sources. There are some themes and some shots and some costumes from the Ghost in the Shell Arise. There are some things in there from Standalone Complex, and also the manga that's not in the anime, and also the anime. So it's just like a patchwork of different inspirations. But again, like that one, like what you're talking about, because even that scene, I think for me, it felt like that shootout, that assassination attempt, and how it was staged was really just to get to that fight, that iconic fight, just to set that up. And I see what you're saying, because, like you said, in those wide shots, it's that cityscape in that world is so dazzling because it's so busy. You have that human congestion, and then when you, as you said, get closer, it's non-existent. It's almost like they didn't have the money for extras.
I mean, it just felt like backlot.
Yeah.
And I find that as we travel further down fanboy cinema, in the case of Watchmen and 300, when I'm experiencing those movies, I am in awe of the replication. But having not, seen the anime Ghost in the Shell and not having that to fall back on as a reference, I find myself I found myself feeling the hand of direct adaptation, but wanting more of adaptation. The way that Blade Runner pulls from a variety of sources to create something new. That's sort of what I wanted from Ghost in the Shell. I found myself going like, man, I really can't wait for the American sequel, Ghost in the Shell Part 2, in which they just take all the ingredients of
I hate to break
this
it to
manga.
you, but there's already a Ghost in the Shell 2 of the anime, so I think they'd have to remake the anime of Ghost in the Shell 2 and come out with an American Ghost in the Shell 3. Boom! Nobody knew I knew that shit.
How many sequels are there, Lisa?
I don't know. Just
There's
two more?
So then Ghost in the Shell Part 4 is the one I'm really looking forward to, where we have to make this shit up in this world.
Yeah. Now with the visual aspect, you are correct. There are things that are just taken directly from the source material. But from a narrative aspect, once you eventually get around to watching the anime film, you will see that that's where the most liberties were taken is with the story, with the origin of the character. Because she's had, for fans of the anime who would complain about them changing the origin of the character, her origin, she has multiple origins. She has a different origin in the manga than she does in the 1995 film. Mm-hmm. She has a different origin in the Arise series than she does in the live action film and also the animated film. So she has multiple, each iteration of that character, different mediums that she has, they change her origin slightly. So there is no one specific unless you go directly back to the manga as a source material. But in this film, they do change her origin. Now, this is where I had the most confliction. This is where I had the biggest issue. And this goes back to her name. So surrounding the casting controversy of Scarlett Johanson as this Japanese character, Motoko Kusanagi, and how there were early rumor reports where the studio was experimenting with a technique to make Scarlett Johansson look more Japanese.
Yikes.
But they decided not to go with that. But then
because it's terrible,
right? And so then,
can you imagine? Jesus,
that'd be bad, like very bad. So then what they tried to do that within the confines of the story of the narrative. So as we said earlier, her name is Mira Killian in the film, and the reason, and so they tried to write into the script why she looks like an American woman as opposed to a Japanese woman.
And also, Kuzi is Michael Pitt.
Yes. And so Motoko Kusanagi, who is the character of Major in the manga and the original anime, she is in this film pre any cybernetic enhancements when she's a young Japanese woman. She is taken by the company and she is killed. Her brain is removed from her body, and the shell that they put that brain in does not look like a Japanese woman. It happens to look like Scarlett Johansson. So thus,
I'd put my brain in Scarlett Johansson.
so thus, you get the reason for why ScarJo looks like ScarJo as opposed to a Japanese woman.
Hold on, does that not happen in the graphic novel or the anime?
So in one iteration of it, something happens and she is put into her shell in the womb. So she's birthed looking like how she's going to look when she grows up. And another one...
You mean like born from a vagina?
Yeah.
Oh.
So she's birthed looking like how she's going to look, well, not looking like a baby, but, she's grown. When she comes out, that's her body. It's going to grow into the shell that it's going to become a woman. And so in another iteration of it, if I'm not mistaken, the Major's body is damaged beyond repair. So they rebuild her cybernetic body, but it looks like her original body. So
this is just a straight up cybernetic body. This is like a robot. She is literally just dropped into a mechanical thing.
Yes.
That does not happen in Ghost in the Shell?
Yeah, but so Brad, your body gets damaged.
It's damaged.
Like Alex Murphy, like fucked up. And they take your brain out of this human body, and they rebuild a cyborg Brad Gullickson that looks just like the human, and they put your brain in that. That's what happens in the original. So
cyborg Brad Gullickson has all of the Brad Pitt muscles.
Yeah. So basically, in the movie though, they take, instead of making her cybernetic body look like the original young lady, Motoko, they make it look like Mira. And so that
makes more sense because probably they have the robot body lying around and they're just waiting for the brain.
Yes, and so that's how they get around why doesn't she look like a Japanese woman. Now, on one hand, it does make sense because I'm thinking, well, they tell her mom that her daughter ran away. If I'm not mistaken, her daughter ran away.
Yeah.
And so obviously they're not going to make a cyborg that looks like her daughter, because then there people, questions will be raised like, oh, there's that missing woman. Where have you been? So yeah, they'll put her in a body that doesn't look like her daughter. But on the other hand, it still feels like, you would do all of that in the narrative just to get around
to justify
to not cast a Japanese person.
Is there more than just one character being whitewashed? Is Bato Japanese in the original?
See, and so here's the thing.
Or like even at the beginning, Dr. Osmond, played by Michael Wincott, is he Japanese in the original?
No, I don't even think he's in the. He's not even in the anime.
When Michael Wincott showed up, I was like, of course this motherfucker is in this movie. That's perfect casting.
Yeah, I don't think he's in the anime. But with Bato, so Togusa, the Japanese gentleman who, when they're in their meeting room, they're in their holographic meeting room, and the guy's showing like he had a cybernetic enhancement to his liver or kidney or whatever, so he can drink alcohol.
Ooh, that's
that one guy, that one guy that's in the suit and tie or whatever. He's the only, in the anime and in the manga, he's the only human on the team who has no cybernetic enhancements. And so his name is Togusa, and he's Japanese. And by his name is distinctively, and by the way he's drawn, he falls in line with Japanese. But the way Bato is drawn and the way for me, I couldn't tell like in the anime if he was in fact Japanese, because they have multinational teams. And so I'm not sure if Bato was ever, if it was ever disclosed whether his origin was of Japanese in origin. So I'm not sure. So when they cast Pilud, did I say it right, Brian? I wasn't necessarily as concerned as I was with the casting of the Major, because clearly Motoko Kusanagi is a Japanese name. And so with Batu, I'm not sure that that's necessarily a Japanese name. I'm not sure. But
and like Dr. Ule and all those characters,
right? So there again. So like I said, within the narrative, that's where they take the most liberties, because there are characters who aren't in the manga and in the anime that are in this film. And so, now with Beat Takashi, Aramaki, his character Aramaki, he looks like Aramaki, but Aramaki is a Japanese character in the anime and in the manga, and Aramaki is a Japanese name. And so that they kept him Japanese in the film was good. And he even spoke strictly Japanese, which
can I have a spin-off movie with his character?
He was badass. That scene, don't send a rabbit to
kill a fox.
Oh, man, that was so dope.
And that the holster with the Japanese writing on it for his revolver.
Yeah.
And the way that Beat Takashi just holds a gun.
It just
loads a gun.
It just brought me back to his Sonatine films.
I was just gonna say
fireworks. Oh man, yeah. I miss Beat Takashi.
I just boosted those up to rent.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good picks. Good life choices. So at the end of the film, they have an action set piece that is taken straight from the anime, and that's where the Major faces off against a spider tank, which is a popular mecha from the manga and the anime. And it pretty much happens in the film the way it does in the anime, even down to her trying to pull the lid off and her busting her arms up. That happens.
I love that. But again, that sequence is the lawless zone. Is it supposed to be free of people?
See, that's not in the whole lawless zone thing. That's not. I don't remember that being in the anime. I don't think that's. I think that's. Again, okay, let's write in a lawless zone where it's free of people, so we don't have to cast extras to be in these scenes.
Right,
I think that was them writing around budget limitations.
I wanted that spider tank to be blown up, District 9. That's what.
Yeah, and so the cool thing, which was missing from the film, which I honestly didn't think about until the end, and so one of the staples of the manga and the anime is the Major and Section 9, which is the name of their group. She has her own spider tank. It's a mini one, so it's about the size. It's about your height or whatever. It's called a Takayama, and it has its own like bubbly kitty personality. And it's her it's her K9 unit. It's her guardian. It's her tool. It's her weapon. And she rides on it. She pulls weapons from it. She uses it to go infiltrate stuff. It has thermoptic camouflage in itself. Like it's another character. It's another addition to the team, and seeing that giant spider tank in the end of the film made me wish that, man, they need to give her own Takayama. but that will, if there is a sequel, which I don't know if there will be, that will most likely show up there. But that's one of the things that I felt was missing, and it would have added some levity to it, because this film, we haven't spoke about it, but the tone of the film is really, pretty straightforward. They play it seriously.
It's dry.
And for the most part, the anime, the 1995 anime film is the same way, but Standalone Complex and the Arise series, and when you get the introduction of the Takayama, that's where you get some levity with that machine. And also Bato and Major's banter back and forth, and their banter within that team. They didn't really focus on the team at all in the film, and with their interactions, that's where you get some of the humanity of in the heart of the film is within that team. So I felt that was missing from this as well. Again, if there is a sequel, I feel like because you have established Major and who she's becoming, then you can focus more on the group dynamic. Because in the anime, it's a very good dynamic. The Arise series is how that team came to be, and that leads into Ghost in the Shell, the new movie, not the live action, but the new animated film. And once you get to that point, that movie plays so well because you've just had a mini series of this group coming together and who they were before they came together. And so I think that's the strongest asset to the animated version, is that you're invested in this team and they have fully fleshed out personality and characters. Where in this one, Togusa, which he's the heart of the animated version because he's our eyes. He's within this world of everybody around me has cybernetic enhancements in society. Then I get put on this team and Bato is 99.9% cyborg. The Major, she's all cyborg. This guy over here, he's 99% human, but he just got his kidney turned into a robot, and I just want to stay human. So he is our eyes into this world and what that's like to be surrounded in a society where it's nothing to get yourself enhanced, and he wants to remain human. And so I felt like there was a missed opportunity in that, because you can have that dynamic of the Major who is getting used to this new world and this new life and this new way of living. And then you have this human character who looks at it from afar like we do and say, what is it about, what is the allure of this, ability to do this? Like, why do you do this?
That would certainly transform the narrative into something else, into what you were saying, a more philosophical story.
Right.
But honestly, I don't know if I would want that story.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
What this film did, when I was most engaged with it, was when it was, full tilt action and embracing its unique perspective. Because I wish it did more.
When I was most engaged with it was when Scarlett Johansson was with that pretty prostitute lady. I wanted to see him kiss.
Yeah.
Well, that scene is great. That's a scene like that Darren's talking about, right? That's a scene where you're going to explore the pros and cons of this lifestyle, of this future, and that is like 3 seconds. And it is gone.
And they didn't kiss even once.
And that's the manga and the anime. The manga and the anime are basically ex machina. Mm-hmm. So you know how ex machina talks about it has that debate about when is the robot no longer a robot? When are they human? It's like that's the through line through the manga and the anime, to the point where, when I was younger and I was a teen, because it was animated and it looked so good, like I couldn't connect with like that deep level. Like it seriously is how you can go watch Ex Machina multiple times and get through multiple levels. Like that's what the anime was doing like back in '95.
Well, that's what I'm saying though, is now I have an Ex Machina.
Right.
I have Blade Runner.
Right.
I have the Matrix. So I don't need to do any of that shit. I want it to be badass.
But this is like Ex Machina / Born Identity. She has a past that she has the opportunity to discover. I think that's interesting, and I do think that's a twist.
You know what this feels like, having this live action adaptation at this point in our culture, in our film history. It feels like when they did John Carter of Mars after
boom. That is, you hit it.
You know what I mean? Like after having the inspiration from that film be given to us in multiple different types of film and different mediums, and now all of a sudden you're going to give us the original. Well, we've seen it so many times before. It's like if they were to remake hard boiled or the killer right now.
Well, here's the thing. If I saw Ghost in the Shell at 14, this version right here, if I'm a 14-year-old walking to the movie theater and checking out Scarlett Johansson in her nude cloak suit, I would lose my goddamn mind. I would be over the moon for this movie.
Right.
But as a 38-year-old, I'm like, it's not bad. It's pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah. And I felt the same way. I felt the weakest aspect of it was the script. It was some clunky dialogue. Brian, you talked about how you liked Bato's relationship and partnership with the Major. For me, I felt like that was the weakest link within those characters, because in the anime they don't have that type of rapport, but because they don't, it's one of those. It's that unspoken type of. It's that unspoken type of bond that I felt that, because in the film they try to give them that
buddy cop
banter, that feels forced. It feels written.
I don't know. For me, that worked pretty well.
Yeah.
That was Bato was certainly one of the most interesting characters for the film for me, most unique individuals.
Yeah.
His relationship with the Major, I wanted more of that. Beat Takashi's commander, I wanted more of him.
And that's the cool thing about Bato's relationship with the Major in the film and in the manga and in the anime, is that it's not a sexual one. There's no Bato's never trying to. They're never building to, shipping them. They're not building to be together. He really views her as an equal, as a partner.
This is Riggs and
Murtaugh.
Riggs and
Murtaugh, absolutely, yeah. And so that's the coolest thing about their relationship, and I think it translates well in the film. Again, there are just some clunky lines of dialogue in there for me. So yeah, I mean, as a live action adaptation of an anime, for me, if you're going to compare it to Dragon Ball Z and Avatar: The Last Airbender, I think it's more successful in its execution of translating those live action.
Oh yeah,
I feel like those are supposed to be kids movies.
Yeah, and maybe that's maybe that's another. I don't know. Maybe that's another reason why, because again, those are different types of anime, which I talked about before. There's your Dragon Ball anime, and then there's your heavily themed Satoshi Kon anime, your Mamoru Oshii, which, if you're a fan of the anime and you haven't seen the film, there are a lot of Easter eggs. So Mamoru Oshii, he directed Avalon, he directed Assault Girls, and he also directed Ghost in the Shell 1 and 2, the anime. In every one of his films, he has a basset hound, because he has a basset hound in real life, and he loves his dog. And so in the live action film, when Bato goes to the alley to feed the dogs, and you see the basset hound there, that's one of the Easter eggs, or visual cues from the other Ghost in the Shell films. That flying machine flying overhead, that shot where you're looking up between the alley, that's taken directly from not the live action, but the animated film from '95. So again, there were a bunch of visual cues that were lifted directly. That machine gun briefcase that they pop out in the beginning, that's taken directly from it. The jump at the end when she looks up at the camera, she's falling feet first, and she swipes up to activate her camouflage, that's from the ending of the live action film. So all those things I appreciated. So if you're a fan of the anime, if you've seen it, there are some things to appreciate about.
But the thing is, a good adaptation refers you back to the original.
Mm-hmm.
That movie, Ghost in the Shell, the live action movie, should make me want to see Ghost in the Shell, the original.
Right.
And to me, this film, confirmed my ignorant opinions of anime movies, that they're emotionless, stilted, visually busy, and boring. That's what that film was to me. And I have, I have a weird story about it. I did see Ghost in the Shell 2.
The second one?
Yes, in the theater.
Jeez.
And I fell asleep, and the person I went with was not happy with me. And so I'm disappointing people by falling it, I've been falling asleep in Ghost in the Shell for now over a decade, it feels like. But to me, I just found it just really boring, and I checked out of it. I did. I checked out of this episode.
Yeah.
I checked out of that film, and so I feel like that's a failure. It's wonderful to put all of these Easter eggs into the film for the people who see the anime and do that kind of fan service, but at the same time, it should make people curious about the original. People who watched Watchmen the movie, all of a sudden they're going to the bookstore and they're buying the comic book.
Yeah.
That's what it should do.
I bought Ghost in the Shell, the anime,
Brad,
Lisa.
you like to buy things, so. And you have a friend named Darren where he will infuse you with that joy and that enthusiasm. Darren's my friend, but I don't feel any need to please him.
Yeah.
All that shit Lisa just said is true.
I have the confidence that Darren likes me for who I am, an anime hater.
And I have been on this podcast somebody who has been feeling desperate to enjoy anime, and I don't know. I watched this, and my curiosity was how much of this is straight adaptation versus new ideas, and now I need to see the original film to answer that question, and I'll do so. I would like to see this world explored further in a sequel with these characters, with these actors. But I'd like to give it maybe possibly a little more freedom, but I can't answer that until I see the anime.
Yeah. I would be curious to see, now that you've seen the live action film, once you do check out the animated film, I would be curious to see your reaction to that animated film, being able to pull thematic cues and also visual cues.
Well, Darren, turn in next week, and I might be talking about it on my Week in Dork.
Yeah.
Unless he hated it, and then he'll be curiously silent about it.
That's a fact.
It was interesting. All right, so that's going to do it for our Ghost in the Shell review cast. Brian, did you have anything else you wanted to add? Are you back with us?
ScarJo? I mean, come on.
Clear
That's
clothes.
your baby. That's your boo-boo.
Yeah. I mean, I'll watch her in anything. I mean, so,
where do you rank this
I'll watch her in nothing because she is a very
there
sexy
you go.
lady.
That too.
Where do you rank this in her canon? Yeah.
Above Lucy or below Lucy?
Above Lucy, definitely. Above Lucy, but somewhere probably in the middle, somewhere. I mean, I enjoy a lot of her other stuff.
Above or below her?
Below. I like her.
I like her also.
Yeah, you don't even see her in her.
Yeah, but she's great in it.
Yeah,
she's still really sexy, though.
Yeah, she's really good in that movie.
Yeah.
Really good.
She's like the sexy Siri.
The first thing I said to Lisa as the credits were rolling on Ghost in the Shell,
it was Wake Up.
After Wake Up, after I prodded her in her rib cage.
I drank coffee at the beginning of this film too,
and we had a bunch of cookies.
Yeah,
and
I got the cookie sleeps.
She stole my nachos.
I did eat some of his nachos.
She drank some of my beer.
Maybe that did it.
That might have done it. Damn it! I need a Black Widow movie. I've been reading the Mark Waid, Chris Samney series that Marvel's putting out right now. Just take those comics, film that shit, and you're going to have a great Scarlett Johansson action fest.
Yeah. I think that's something that we can definitely use right now. Because, I mean, you can definitely do her a solo movie with that character, her in that character in so many different ways. So I think it's time that we get that solo film for her.
She pulled off those action scenes. The one action scene in the beginning where she jumps through the glass, I mean, there's clearly like CGI for her body, but there's a scene towards the end where she's going down a hall when she's escaping, when Julie Binoche lets her out and she's escaping, and she takes out those 4 or 5 guys in the hallway, and that was really her. I mean, that shit was badass. So she's very capable as far as action roles. So yeah, I'd be interested to see a Black Widow film.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I like this movie.
How many stars?
3. It's middle of the road for me, but I mean, it's not a movie I would want a sequel to. I mean, I kind of feel this way, like you were saying, like how dry it feels. It does feel like a dry movie, but it does have a lot of interesting themes about it. But I equate this more so to like Assassin's Creed. Better than that. But I'm just saying, as far as like the dryness of how it feels, like just watching it, I was engaged and I liked it. But then outside of that, I don't know.
I think if it had a better script,
that is cruel.
If it has if the sequel has a better script, different writers, then I also, especially knowing the source material, because so much can be mined just from that team, just from Major's team, Section 9.
Section 9, yeah, you could do a lot with that.
There's so much untapped potential in there that would be a badass sequel or even franchise. Because again, they haven't even really introduced her whole team, and they all have like their special skills. And the sniper guy at the end that shot the helicopter out. In the series, he is badass. He's one of the best.
That was in Bato?
Team. No, that wasn't Bato. It's a guy. Yeah, it's a guy who had, because he's a sniper, he decided to have his eyes cybernetically enhanced.
What?
Yeah.
Was that his introduction in the movie? Was him being as a sniper?
Yep.
That wasn't Bato?
No, that wasn't Bato.
What?
No, he only has one cybernetic eye, the sniper dude.
Yeah, but I thought
his
he
name
was
his name was Saito, Saito. So it sounds like Bato, but no, that wasn't him.
Did they say his name in the movie?
Mm-hmm.
No.
He is on IMDb with his own name.
Yeah, he's in the film. Again,
I know
the
he's
rest
in
of
the
the
film. I
team,
thought
we
that was
don't get
Bato.
to meet him. We don't get to meet him.
That's weird.
It's a travesty. So yeah. All right. So I got to plug upcoming film club, Itmon Film Club, Old Boy. Be on the lookout for that. We have a fistful of barflies in honor of Colossal that's coming out soon. So I'm very excited for the release of that film. I want more people to see it so more people can talk about it. So more people will go see it, and then more people will talk about it. And then upcoming, we have Itmod Month, the month of May, where the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast will venture back out to Winchester, Virginia, to the Alamo Winchester. And each dork will have a weekend to host a film of our choosing.
We still can't tell you what they are.
But it's coming, so don't worry. Hang on, hang in there. And then our good friends, our best friends, our family, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead will be coming back to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast to talk about their new film, The Endless, and whatever else they want to talk about because they're just so cool. And so if you haven't listened to the first interview with them, do so. Check that out before our next interview so you can be brought up to speed on our relationship with those guys and our friendship, our lifelong friendship now. We're blood brothers and sister. And so, yeah, Brian, tell the people they can find you.
You guys can find me at The Turtle Dork, at The Turtle Dork 1, Brian William Young at all social media sites.
Yeah, and you're excited for our next review cast, Fast Fate of the Furious?
Of course I am.
Is that next week? When is
That's
that?
2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting. Colossals this week. I knew that.
Yeah, Wife Dork.
You can find me having the cookie sleeps at the Alamo Draft House or on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Sidewalk Siren.
Hashtag Sleepy BB.
Sleepy baby.
And Brad Gullickson, Mouth Dork.
You can find me on all social medias at Mouth Dork.
Yep, and I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and now Snapchat. I actually started a story. Yeah.
What are you, a tween?
Yeah, I was forced to do it.
You gotta use some filters.
Megan and Lindsay forced me to do it.
Oh, well, I'm on Snapchat now.
I sent you a Snap thing. I don't know how to use it, so I'm fumbling in the dark. So if you get
Hold on,
something
you sent me a Snap?
I think so.
Looking it up now.
Yeah, you can follow me there at the Disco Dork. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Again, be on the lookout for the rest of our content. And until next time.
No snaps, Darren. You haven't sent me shit.